Many lower extremity injuries have weight-bearing restrictions on the involved leg. Smart crutch tips, an accurate and objective measure to achieve this. How do they work? The doctor prescribes a weight-bearing program per patient's needs. No load, partial load, and increasing load. The patient receives a link to the program and opens it up in the patient app. Following instructions, the patient installs the smart crutch tips and syncs them to the app via Bluetooth. After pairing the devices, the specific weight-bearing program is activated. Now it is in the patient's phone and in the smart crutch tips. Step softer. Step harder. There is no feedback when the patient is walking correctly. Data for each step is shown in the doctor dashboard and patient app. The patient can alert the doctor of pain or swelling via SOS button. The doctor addresses patient concerns, views patient progress, and modifies the weight-bearing program as needed. Comeback mobility, advancing rehabilitation, one step at a time.
All right, excellent. So again, on that note, handing the virtual lectern over to HITLAB's one and only Director of Medical Affairs, Prem, Dr. Sreenivasan. Prem, you're up.
Yeah, well, thanks, Stan. Good afternoon. And welcome, Nassar. How are you today?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking. How are you doing, Prem?
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming and taking us through your learnings from the JP Morgan healthcare event, and delighted to welcome you to the session. So as we get started, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself in a brief intro, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So my name is Nassar Nizami. I'm the Chief Information and Digital Officer for Jefferson Health and Thomas Jefferson University, which is a health system serving Greater Philadelphia area. We have about 16 hospitals, a health plan, and a university. In the last 8 or 10 years, we have become a almost $9 billion organization by mostly mergers and acquisition. My background has been all in healthcare IT. Prior to joining Jefferson, I was with New York Presbyterian, and before that, I was with Yale New Health. And it's a pleasure to be here today.
Fantastic. And you had mentioned that you had attended some of the sessions at the JP Morgan. So, you know, we're delighted to hear your feedback and your insights from there.
So let me start with a high-level recap, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions. So I attended, so JP Morgan, as you know, have many tracks. I attended their not-for-profit track. So these are mostly large healthcare systems, provider systems that provide updates, their annual updates to the investor community and the community at large. So let me start by sharing some of the themes that I heard from about roughly 24 large health systems. So of course, we are living in strange times of COVID. So every health system mentioned the impact of COVID. And some of the themes within that, I think, and more pronounced actually this year compared to last year, was around worker or employee concerns. That was really, I think, the health systems are really feeling it, and it was, everyone was loud and clear, whether it's great resignation, whether it's burnout, nursing shortages, early retirements, wage increase, or remote work. A number of organizations spoke about the transition to mobile workforce, especially for their enterprise services or non-clinical services. So that's one of the themes that really was pretty, I think, relatively new compared to previous years, but really almost everyone spoke about. Then I think another, and I think it ties to the conversation, some of the conversation that was happening in the prior session, almost every health system spoke about consumerism in one flavor or other, whether it was about digital experience, whether it was virtual experience, whether it was many actually health systems highlighted that their telehealth programs helped them and are playing a vital role. Again, we are in the midst of search as we speak. And the good news is that many of the virtual telehealth programs have matured across health systems. So a number of organizations highlighted that. But the emphasis in the belief that consumerism is in the rise, and I think previous speaker said was saying that nobody expected previously to have a pleasant experience, I guess, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and that has changed, and that I think was very evident in what the executives of these healthcare systems were sharing. Third thing that was pretty, I think, remarkable in my opinion was, again, almost everyone spoke about health equity issues or, disparities, health disparities in the way people access and receive care. And almost, again, every healthcare system shared their plans on how they highlighted how they are fighting. You have a question, Prem?
No.
All right. So just a couple of more things and now I'll stop. I think it was pretty obvious that the growth is on everyone's mind. Most organizations spoke about growth, merger and acquisition. I think one of the organizations summed it very nicely and called 2020 was a year of survival, 2021 was year of recovery, and 2022 will be the year of growth. And I think every organization, most organizations are planning further growth. They spoke about their belief that there will be further consolidation in the provider space, which of course I believe in. We believe in. So I think in the future we expect to see some of the announcements coming out of this. Almost again, many of the health systems highlighted partnerships and the value of partnerships, even though it was a pretty broad spectrum. In the sense that some spoke about their partnership with other healthcare systems, some highlighted their partnership with payers. A handful of health systems mentioned their partnership with large tech companies, Googles of the world and Microsoft of the world. Educational institutes, and number of institutes highlighted the work that they are doing with the startups and the small and nimble companies. And I think there was an interesting focus, which has been a theme in the last a couple of JP Morgans, but that continues. I think the interest, and I think it's probably also evidenced by the investment that we are seeing. And then I think just along the lines of, I would say, growth and consolidation, the desire to, or the future of a system. So, the different organizations use different words for it, but essentially spoke about the value of operating like an operating company. Many of these systems have multiple hospitals, 10, 12, and many other hospitals, but many health systems spoke about the value of operating like an operating company, or as an enterprise, or as a system, right? Where you can truly benefit from a scale. So it tells me that in consumerism, again, to recap, consumerism, health equity, virtual telehealth, digital, different names, partnerships, and just further consolidation, I think probably are going to be themed between now and next year when we meet again for JP Morgan.
Well, that sounds like a very significant development there. So thank you for that. That was great. So you mentioned 2022 is the year of the growth. So from the standpoint of from the IT systems like AI and other, perhaps a couple of highlights that you're able to recall from those discussions and conversations you may have had.
Absolutely. And so, of course, let me start with, AI that you mentioned. This is, I think, a growing area. It has been an area of interest, whether you call it data science, AI, ML. A number of startups that were mentioned in the conference, almost everyone had an AI undertone. And I had an opportunity to look at some of the other company profiles. As you know, in addition to not-for-profit organizations, for-profit organizations also go there for to highlight and essentially make sure that they're meeting the lenders, right? And AI was certainly one of the themes. I think other theme was automation, and especially a handful of systems mentioned automation as a way to combat the staffing issues that we all are facing now. So that certainly is a theme, and of course, continued technological investment in digital and virtual. That's going to, I think, we are Interestingly, one thing that have been more, I guess, obvious in the prior conferences that very few organizations mention large-scale implementations, like EMRs. A couple of them mentioned EMRs, but it was I thought that it was remarkable that there were not a whole lot of mentions, again, compared to past, of large scale, whether CRM or ERP or EMR implementation. So I guess, that market may be settling, who knows? But just by mention, again, digital automation, AI, these were more themes, consumerism.
That sounds that's fantastic. So thank you for that update from the JP Morgan, and it's great to get this perspective, because you look at it from the academic and the from the research standpoint. So that's an important contribution to this symposium itself. And as we come towards the end of this session here, any other areas that you feel were highlighted in terms of the consumerism, in terms of the user experience? Were there any broad trends, novel trends that sort of stood out, because that's a repeating theme?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it novel, but I think when people talk about consumerism and digital, there was talk in some organizations went in depth in what generally, loosely we all call digital front door, right? So the ability of patients to use digital tools to, I guess, interact with the providers, number one, but further than things like asking questions and scheduling or paying their bills online, right? So how do patients interact with the health system? So that was one of the themes when people spoke about, I think, and especially looking at some of the profiles of the company and what some of the provider organizations are doing in terms of their partnership. I think it's pretty, I think one of the things that bubbles up are the things that generally are lumped under digital front door.
So thank you so much, Nassar. We can keep you for another half hour, but we are coming towards the end of this session here. So I welcome back Stan to make his remarks and take it to the next section of the symposium. Thank you again, Nassar.
Thank you, Prem.
That's outstanding, Prem, and thank you, Prem, for moderating such a great interview. And again, a wonderful virtual round of applause for both of these folks. Thank you.